Thank you so much for attending this session on artifacts preservation. Today I will be talking about preserving photographs, documents, creating family books, and scrapbooks. As a note of reference, most of the pictures that you'll see in this presentation will be pictures of my family. The first screen, Preserving Family Memories, will talk about preserving photographs, original photographs, preserving copies of photographs, preserving written documents, preserving memories in family books, and preserving memories in scrapbooks. I found this graphic that said what you should and should not do with your photographs. I made a change in one of them. And so we're going to start with what you should always do with your photographs. Number one, you should always scan them, and scan the back too, because it may have the name or date on the back. So any markings, you scan the front and the back. If the photo is too big for your scanner, take a picture of it. Number two, always save the negatives. Think of them as another backup copy for your photos. Number three, always store them safely in acid-free, lignin-free archival sleeves and boxes. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Number four, always identify the people, places, and dates. Write them on the back with a soft lead pencil. Number five, handle your photographs by the edges or wear white cotton gloves to protect your photos from the oils in your hands. All right, now the 6 things that you should never do with your photographs is number one, to laminate them. It's an irreversible process that causes fading. You should use archival photo sleeves instead. And we'll show you that in a few minutes. My aunt was the queen of lamination. And so we have several photos that have been ruined from lamination. Number two, never display in direct sunlight. Protect your frame photos with UV blocking glass. Number three, never place your photos in magnetic albums. The acidic pages cause deterioration and the glue could permanently adhere. I think those albums were very popular probably back in the 70s and 80s. But make sure if you have any pictures in those to take them out immediately. Be very careful as you take them out because they will pull the color off. Number four, you should never label pictures with a ballpoint pen on the front or the back. The point can leave indentations. And number five, never store your pictures in an attic, a basement, or a garage where extreme temperatures and humidity will hasten deterioration. And the 6th fact that I've added, it was never cut or crop a Polaroid photograph. Because if you do that, the colors will just run right out of the picture and your picture will be destroyed. Tips for digitizing and editing photographs. Always scan old photographs with your camera. Remove them from the frame if it won't cause any damage. If they start sticking to the glass, just leave the glass on them. Send images to Evernote, Google File, Dropbox, a thumb drive, or external drive, or some other storage. For safekeeping, having another copy. You can boost your faded images with a filter. Apps that offer preset filters, VSCO, PicMonkey, Pixar, and Photor. I have not had much experience with these filters. I've tried Pixar and I didn't have a good result. So I don't bother with those. But for those of you that can do that, those are some of the filters that are available. You should correct the color if needed. You can use the light, saturation, and temperature, light, and shadow tools to adjust your color. And you can also purchase Photoshop or Photoshop Element software. And this software is used by almost all graphic artists. And so if you want it done correctly, you can always get a graphic artist to do it for you. This is a picture of my grandfather in his youth. As you can see, it's very dark. It has cuts and tears all throughout the picture. It's very hard to see and to determine even what is in the background. There are two pictures here. On the left is a picture that has been photoshopped. And so all of the tears and lines have been removed, but it's still dark. So we decided to try to lighten it up a little bit so we can see more of grandfather's features. And that is what you see on the right. Preserving photographs and written documents. Original photographs and documents should be stored in acid-free sleeves, which comes in all sizes. Smaller sleeves can be placed in an acid-free archival box. You can get them from Michael's arts and crafts store or online. There's several different places, Gaylords, etc. This is just a picture of one that you might see in Michael's. They sell these all of the time. Number 3, you can make copies of your pictures and display them in scrapbooks or family books. But I would not advise using your original photographs, the very old ones, in your scrapbooks. Preserving newspaper clippings. Newsprint is very acidic. You should make copies of them and spray your originals with a deacidification spray such as Archival Mist. And this is what Archival Mist looks like. It comes in a package like this. You would spray it. I would suggest spraying outside because it can be a little strong. But you would spray your newspaper articles or old documents with that to prevent it from crumbling. Prior to 1880, newspapers were made from cotton rag pulp. Afterwards, the newspapers were printed on untreated wood pulp, which was cheaper and of course was more acidic, which causes our newspaper articles to deteriorate quickly. These are some original documents that I had found. If you see on the right-hand side, there's a copy of minutes of the 30th annual session of the Cedar Grove Missionary Baptist Association. It was held in Rockingham County in North Carolina. And the dates of the convention were August 11th through the 13th in 1898. I was so glad to be able to get this document. And I was looking through it carefully. You can see how old and tattered it is. And so I made sure I put it in a sleeve. As you see, this is one of the polyester polypropylene sleeves that you would put your artifacts in. And I noticed on the left, there was a letter in there, a handwritten letter by my great aunt's husband, Grant Smith. My great aunt's name was Belle Smith. And he had written a handwritten document or agreement for the district in Caswell County to become a teacher for the colored race in Caswell County. And I was really excited to see this. It was very old. So I took that, put that in a sleeve, and I have that also in another box. I wanted to display this because I thought it was so special. So I started doing scrapbooking. And this is a 12 by 12 page that would go into an album. And I copied the minutes. As you can see, there's the front page of the minutes on the bottom right. I copied both sides of the handwritten letter that my great uncle Grant Smith wrote. I put them at the top left. On the very top right, I did what we call journaling, what, where, who, what, when. And I told about Grant Smith being the husband of my great-great aunt, Belle, and how he had written this agreement. At the very bottom at the left, I transcribed the letter. So if it was a little hard to read, you would have it. I did that on the computer. So you have the complete transcription of what he said. And this was a good way to display this in a scrapbook. I also did the marriage license of Belle and Grant Smith. They got married November 1st, 1889. You can see her picture. Her actual picture name was Isabel, but she didn't like Isabel and she only went by Belle. And there's Grant Smith at the bottom. And a copy, and they are all copies, and a copy of their marriage certificate. This is a picture of archival sleeves. They're just plastic sleeves or bags. They have an open top, and when you put your documents or photos in them, you do not seal the tops. You keep them open so in case there's any acid or acidity that it can escape. These are 16 by 24 inch sleeves that I think I found on Amazon. And they are large enough to put newspaper, entire newspaper in. And you see that these were 50 sleeves in a pack for $24. There is a store, online store called Gaylord, and Gaylord Archival has newspaper boxes. In fact, they have boxes for all types of archives. And so you can get them in different sizes. This is just a little graph of what they had on their website. You can get them in different colors as well. You can also purchase archival family history kits. And this one also comes from Gaylord, which is a very reputable archival company. And in this kit, you would be able to get a pedigree chart to plot out your family tree. You would get a brochure to record your oral history interviews. You have a document box with file folders, envelopes, and sleeves to store your photos and important documents in. And of course, all of this would be acid-free and archival quality. This is a record box, a storage box that you can put files in and keep a lot of your documents. Now, to share your research that you're doing, especially with documents and with photographs, you can also use commercial family photo books to preserve them. You get commercial photo books come from Shutterfly, Costco, Walgreens, Sam's Club, etc. And the advantages of the commercial photo books, you can have your pictures on the cover. There are pre-printed captions throughout the books. You can choose what you want. All you have to do is drop your pictures in. You don't have to do a lot of thinking about it. Just drop it in. It's worry-free. These are some examples of a commercial photo books. As you can see here, there's a little girl there and has Bloom, Live Life in Full. The captions are already there, or you can choose the captions that you like. On the right, top right, you have the family love, where you have your pictures on the cover. At the bottom, you can see pictures of family. All you have to do is drop your pictures in and choose your templates. The cost of commercial photo books At one time with Costco, 30 pages was $17.99. And you had additional pages at 76 cents a page. And there was a maximum limit of 100 pages. Shutterfly had as their special a hardcover book, $39.99, really at $40 for 20 pages. Walgreens had a custom cover book, double-sided, customize any page from $29.99. Sam's Club also has books from $24.86. It depends on the window style or whatever type of style you have. So you get an idea of what the cost would be. Now, what I chose to do with my books, I self-published. Or actually, I didn't really self-publish. I had started to do self-publishing, but I found out that my church has an audiovisual ministry, and they were publishing books at the church for church use, anniversaries and so on. So I got them to do my self-publishing. The advantages of those are you can insert specific names and captions. You can develop and showcase your creativity. You can use Microsoft Publisher or Pages. You can use PowerPoint or Keynote to design the pages. You would need a hardbound binding machine. And the hardbound covers, those who come from Office Depot or Office Max, as well as the binding machine. And you can determine the amount of books you like and the amount of pages. These are examples of self-published family photo books that I have done for my family. On the left is my father's family, the Harold Slaughter family, and I used a window style cover book. As you can see, there's a window there. When you open it up, the first page of the book is actually part of the cover. And then on the white book down, the hardcover at the bottom, those pictures were actually put on the cover of the book, a hardcover. And that was on my mother's side, the Johnson, Winston, Talley, Pulliam family. These are some sample pages of my self-publishing book. This one is for on my mother's side. I did sort of a little chart, family tree chart, starting out with Moses and Martha Pulliam, who were born around 1790 or 1800. I'm still searching for their records. And they had Amy Pulliam. And Amy Pulliam had, according to this chart, had 7 children. But I found out later that she had 10 children, but 3 we don't know what happened to. We don't know if they died or if they were sold or what happened. So I'm still searching for that. This is another page in the book. Well, I take each person, each child of Amy's. Fanny Pulliam happens to be my great-grandmother, and William Buck Johnson's offspring. She is the mother of my grandfather, John Lawson Johnson, who married Clara Talley Johnson. This is another page for my self-publishing book, and it features my cousin, Floyd Flock Johnson. And when I can, I try to include everything that I think is needed about that person. Everyone called him Flop, and some people may not have even known what his real name was. So I would include that. And these are pictures of him from his childhood up through adulthood. I also tried at the very top, I always started out with the genealogical tree, where he fits in that tree. Now, the cost associated with self-publishing books. I had planned to buy my own binding machine because when I first started this some years ago, it was very reasonable. You could get a thermal binding machine for probably about $49, $50. Well, I procrastinated And when I went back to get one, it was about $99. And I thought, well, perhaps it'll go on sale. Well, when I looked again, in fact, I looked, I think today, that same thermal binding machine on the right is now $270.69. So I think I will probably continue to use the church to do my binding of my books. The binders you can get for $6 to $9 average each, and you can get them to fit different sizes, how many pages that you would need. You can get them in the landscape view or the portrait view or the square view. And of course, the cost of the printed pages would depend, probably 5 to 10 cents per page. You can also have your books bound with custom printing. And the company that does that is thermalbinding.com. Now, if you don't choose to do commercial books or self-publishing books, then you may want to do scrapbooking. And that's something I enjoy very much. And when you're doing older pictures, we call it heritage scrapbooking. And this happens to be a picture of my parents at their wedding reception in the background. Scrapbooking is the art of preserving memories. We honor the family member and their memories through artistic presentation. The advantages are creativity and personalization. And we're also creating heirlooms for future generations. And we can show our family trees through heritage scrapbooking. The basics of heritage scrapbooking are: 1, you need to gather and organize your photographs. 2, then you assemble your supplies. Your supplies would include albums and cardstock papers. Most of the albums these days are generally 12 by 12 pages. Some are 8 by 11, and a few are 8 by 8. You would need adhesives, tape runners, glue sticks, glue dots, photo corners, liquid glue, and the colors that you would choose for your papers. For heritage scrapbooking, you may want to be a little more muted colors to go along with that time frame. Composition, how you're going to put the pictures on the page. Journaling, what you're going to say about the pictures, and the title. You also need scissors, acid-free pens, and paper trimmers. This is a picture of a pedigree or ancestry chart. You used to be able to get these anywhere at arts and crafts stores, but many of them are going out of business now. And so, but you can still get them at scrapbook.com, and there are other vendors that I will have listed in the bibliography at the end. This is another example of family tree papers. Here is an actual tree, and you can fill in your ancestors' names. Preserving and telling stories through scrapbooking. This is a picture, as you can see, of a piano. It is a square grand piano that was built between 1853, I think 1848 and 1853. I looked that up because it was the name of the manufacturer, Nuns and Company, was in business only for those years. Nuns was in business with several other people, Nuns and Clark, Nuns and Sons, and for a long period of time. But when they were Nuns and Company, they were only in business from 1848 to 1853. So that makes the piano about 167 to 172 years old. Now, this when my mother was a young girl, she used to work at the Connolly House, and they were the descendants of the slave owners of our people. And one day she was dusting this piano. This was part of her duty to dust the piano. And her Aunt Belle, that you saw earlier, who was married to Grant Smith, Aunt Belle told her that they sold her sister in slavery to buy this piano. They sold her for $1,000. Well, I didn't hardly believe my mother that one slave would be $1,000. So I said, oh, maybe so. But I really doubted it. So anyway, when I was about a sophomore in college, my mother saw where the last person in that family had died. And she wrote her daughter and told her this story and said that she wanted the piano because her relative had been sold to purchase it. And so we negotiated, we went there and we purchased the piano. But when we got back, it took us a few years. I moved the piano to my house. It was in my mother's house and we grew up there. And then after my mother got older and she was developing Alzheimer's, I moved her in with me. And the first thing she said was, what are we going to do with the piano? And I said, we're going to bring it right on here. So I had to move lots of things out the way to get it in. And one day I was there looking at the piano and it spoke to me and it said, find me. And I thought about it. I said, all these years, I never thought to ask or know who was the aunt that was sold. And so that is what started my quest on genealogy. And so my mother couldn't remember. By that time, she was in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. She didn't remember. None of her other sisters or brothers knew. I asked everyone in the family. Nobody knew who it was. So I found a little picture that I had never seen before either when she came to live with me, a little girl that looked like a slave girl. And I said, could she be the one? So I used this to tell this story, this scrapbook page. And I put her picture at the bottom and under it I wrote, is she the aunt? And on the right, I did some journaling and I tell the entire story about the piano and I dated it. And so people could look and tell the entire story from this scrapbook page. Now this is what we call a single page layout, just as the last one that we saw. There's only one page or one piece of cardstock that tells a story or a picture. These were some relatives of mine that I didn't know about until just a few years ago. They had left Caswell County because everyone that worked in Caswell County were farmers. There was nothing else for Black people to do other than farming. He wanted to do more. So he took my Aunt Addie and moved to Roanoke to work on the railroad. So when I got this picture, found this picture of them, I put a little map of Roanoke, Virginia on the left. I put a picture of a locomotive and a railroad sign at the bottom on his side, and a clock, a watch, that is. And then for his wife, Addie, I heard that she was a wonderful cook from her daughter. Her daughter is now about 101, 102. And she said she was a wonderful cook. So I put an oven mitt and a little pot there. And also the flowers on her side to show the feminine side. These are some other samples of single page layouts. You can see the one on the left. They're usually mostly rectangles or squares and maybe a little flower to offset, all of the linear lines there. On the right, you also see more rectangles, but she used more flowers and more little curlicues and whatever to decorate and embellish the page and make it more feminine. These two are examples of single page layouts. The one on the left is featuring a family of men, And because there's so many people there, what they did, they was make an outline of the people, of the men, and numbered them. And then they put the names of each of the men, or it was one woman, down at the corner. On the right, you can see there's another very simple scrapbook page with the picture on the right, the title, A Moment in Time, her name underneath, and then some flowers, probably maybe to represent the type of flowers that she liked. Now, these are some single page layouts, more of my family members. These are some I had not completed, but I want you to see how you can start simply. You just take a piece of album paper, cardstock paper, and I took another patterned piece of paper, and I cut two little strips, one at the top, one at the bottom, and pasted that on. I put a big rectangle in the center, and then I put a solid piece of yellow that was embossed. You may not be able to see the embossing, which there's a little raised pattern there. And then I matted my uncle's picture with black, a piece of black paper to make it look like a mat for a frame. Later on, I put some boxing gloves and a boxing ring over in the right-hand corner because he was a boxer in his day. This is another single page layout featuring one person. That's another uncle, his brother, and he went to NCCU, so I did his colors in maroon and gray. I had triple mats. I had his picture on maroon, gray, and then black to kind of help pop the colors out a little bit. And I put texture on those rectangles. And also, if you see the little designs there in the middle, my uncle was an assistant principal and a teacher. And so those, that little strip has features, designs for school. It has pictures of art, of math, parallelograms and triangles, music, and different things you would think of for school. Sometimes you can buy papers that already have designs on them. And I like this paper and I wanted to use it. And so I love the butterflies on it. And so I had a small picture of my aunt. She's the sister to the two brothers before. And it was only so small, it didn't take up much of the paper. So I thought I would cut out some of what we call die cuts and put them there behind her picture so we could, the focus would be on her in the center. This is another single layout with muted colors because this is an older picture. In fact, this is a picture of me and my mother. Another single page layout, a monochromatic, and mostly the same colors, just a little darker and lighter. One other single layout color, this in color. And usually I didn't do bright colors, but the reason I did this was because this was my great-grandfather. His name was Green Talley. And because his name was Green, I did his page in green colors. His daughter, Clara Francis, is my grandmother. And his other daughter was named Mary Green. So I put a little bit of pink right around their green to show that they were ladies. These are just some other pictures, give you some ideas of what you can do with scrapbooking and display your photographs. Now we are coming to double page layouts. A double page means that there are you have two pages, but there's really one thought or one, I guess, design that you have, and everything is related, and you need continuity between those two pages. You remember this first page, the one on the left, I had shown you before. On the second page, when you open up your album, of course, you have those two pages there. I wanted to show a picture of Grant Smith. And I found this picture much later. I was just ecstatic to find it. And you can see there's a big tear in the middle. Didn't have a chance to get that one photoshopped yet. But anyway, that was only a copy. That's not the original, still a copy. And Grant and Isabel Bell are on the back row, and their two daughters are between them. And then there's the picture of his class in Caswell County. And I put a picture of a potbelly stove there because, that's the way the children kept warm. Maybe some pencils and a little apple. And I put circa 1898. I'm not sure exactly when it was done because unfortunately, most of the pictures that I have, none were dated. None had names on them. I just had to guess at or get people to help me identify them. This is another double page layout about my uncle, my mother's oldest brother. His name was Robert Green Johnson, and that's why I did his pages in green, but this time they were a little muted green. And you can see the continuity between those two pages. The other double page layout is my mother's family, her mother and father, and their 10 children. My mother was the 8th of 10 children. This was pretty simple. They had 2 pages of tan paper, and then 2 black strips that I embossed, and you can see the raised edges of them. And then I put everybody's picture matted in black. And I put wrote their names right underneath in white. Another double page layout includes theme papers. Like I said, you can sometimes buy papers that already have designs on them, particularly if they were about the profession of the person that you'd like to feature. On the left, there's a picture of the scales of justice. And I got that because my uncle was elected or appointed as a judge in Western North Carolina. And you may recognize Congressman Butterfield there in that picture as well with him. And on the right-hand side, there are pictures of law cases, books, and I thought that was neat. So I put the other articles on that side. You can also purchase scrapbook page kits. Again, you'd probably have to go online to look for these. There used to be in a lot of the craft stores, and you can still look, but I don't see them as much as I used to. You should be able to get them online. Make a scrapbook page. Choose your photographs. Choose 2 to 3 colors of paper and cut shapes. You can crop the photos only if they're a copy. I would not ever cut an original photograph. Mat the photos, arrange them on the page. You can embellish them with stickers or die cuts, and you can journal who or when or where, why or what, and then adhere the arrangements to the page. In summary, we are honoring our ancestors' lives through artistic presentation. We are creating family heirlooms to pass down to succeeding generations. And we are showcasing family history as coffee table books that inspire and promote genealogy. This is the end. Thank you very much.
All right, stop recording.